I spent years building my business the hard way, thinking that it had to look like 12-hour-long days, no days off. And that was the only way it would work. And yes, my business grew, but I completely burnt out along the process. And it didn't matter what I achieved, how successful I was, it still didn't feel like enough. I expanded my fitness business, I expanded to a team. I invested thousands and thousands into mentorships, into content, into strategy, and yet I still completely burnt out. I got to the point where my whole body was fighting against me and I just couldn't ignore it anymore. And it wasn't until I stopped focusing on just the external and I started focusing on the internal and doing the inside work that I once thought was so fluffy that everything really changed for me. My business became more aligned, it became easier to show up every day, my relationships became more fulfilling, and that is exactly why the Built From Within podcast works, because every business owner deserves to know that the strategy only works when the person behind it does. I'm B, a mindset and NLP coach, and the silent partner behind your business that helps you grow without burning out. This is your space to do the work that changes everything. Welcome to Built From Within. I cannot believe we are here. Welcome to the very first episode of the Built From Within podcast. It means the absolute world to me that you are here joining right from the start. This podcast is honestly everything I wish someone had sat down and told me right at the start of business. Everything I wish I'd known that would have saved me so much time, so much money, and made my business feel so much more aligned right from the get-go. I already have the first few episodes planned out, and I know you are absolutely going to love them. So please, whilst you're here, whilst you're at the start, just stop a moment, give the podcast a follow or a subscribe, give it a rating before we even get going, because I know you're absolutely going to love this podcast. And if at any point this episode really resonates with you, please send it to someone else that you think might need to hear it, because I really believe as women, we should be spreading the word and breaking the norm in how things are done, because I wish someone had done that for me, okay? So this first episode is going to start off being really raw, really honest. And so I hope you'll bear with me on this. I am just going to really share with you my whole journey of building a business and exactly how I got to the point of getting into mindset and NLP work, and why I'm so passionate about the work that I do with my clients now, and how exactly it changes both your business and your life in more ways than you could ever imagine. So for those of you that don't know, I originally started my business back when I was probably about 20. I was in my second year of university. Lockdown had hit and I started my fitness coaching business. And already being at university and starting a fitness business, I was really going against the norm. Everybody around me was drinking, going out every night, and I was straight in the deep end trying to build this business from my university bedroom whilst my friends were there doing prees in the living room. And I honestly had no clue what I was doing. There weren't many people in my life that were business owners, definitely not in the industry that I was trying to get into. Online coaching was still very new at the time, and I was pretty overwhelmed. And I remember going into my university living room at the time and like sharing with my housemates every time I got a new client. And it felt like the most amazing feeling. And I was so excited for the impact I was going to have and just how much I knew their lives would change through this. But I was finding it so hard. I had no idea how to get clients, where they came from, what to do, what to post on Instagram. It felt like a minefield. And so I did something I had never done before, a little bit of a crazy decision. And I invested 4K of my student loan in an online coaching mentorship. And I literally remember like the feeling in my heart, like my heart pounding, the knot in my stomach as I read out my card details to him. And I paid $4,000 to join a 12-month mentorship and thinking, what am I doing? And that moment in itself was the biggest signal in my brain that I had to make this work. It was the most amount of money I'd ever spent. No idea how I was going to pay my student loan, but I knew I was going to make it work. And that decision of deciding to go all in and investing in myself was the best thing I could have done. But what I didn't realize is the amount of gaps that were going to come up as a result. It was really normalized that in this area, you would just hustle. It was normal to be on your laptop at 5 a.m. and 8 p.m. at night. It was normal to take your laptop on holiday. In fact, you were lucky too. No days off was glamorized. I remember following so many other online coaches that I looked up to, and they always seemed to be working. They were either working or they were at the gym, and that was their whole life. And so, me being absolutely desperate to make it work, that's what I did. I honestly just woke up and worked, whether it be uni work or my coaching business, and poured absolutely everything into it. And this was honestly just the very start. I remember being utterly glued to my phone to the point that I used to wake up in the night to Instagram notifications. And it wouldn't even be a real message, but I would be dreaming of Instagram notifications because my brain and body really had no off switch. I was simply running on like cortisol and stress every single day. And to an extent, it worked. My business grew, it expanded, and on the outside, it looked like I was living the dream. But I soon found myself going for a breakup with my long-term partner at the time. We'd been together about 7 years in this town that I'd gone to university, but all my friends had moved away, and living in this town where I knew absolutely nobody. I lost the one long-term companion I'd had, and my work was from my laptop all day, every day post-university. And I didn't know where to turn. And because I didn't know what to do, because I'd only ever worked, again, I just buried myself into my laptop. And everybody on the outside would say, like, you're doing so well. It looks so successful. And yet, internally, I felt so lonely. I was so stressed. I would either skip meals, I would order food in, I would rely on meal deals because I felt like I didn't have the time to even take lunch. Any time off felt like I was doing wrong. I remember trying to book onto things like pole classes, horse riding, and then ending up cancelling them last minute because a client asked for a call. And I felt too bad to take time off, too bad to say no, too bad to have those boundaries. And I remember investing in my first ever mindset coach, and I had no idea what it was at the time, but I knew I wasn't happy. That was all I knew. I knew I wasn't happy. I knew I was lonely. And he asked me this question that honestly hit me like a punch in the stomach. And he asked me, if you were to take away your work, if you were to take away your coaching business, who would you be? Oh my God, the feeling in my body at the thought of not having my business. I honestly didn't know who I was outside of it. And I was in my early 20s and I didn't know who I was outside of my work. And at a similar sort of point, I very sadly lost my best friend to suicide. It was obviously absolutely awful. And it was that real wake up call of like, I am not living my life right now. I am not thriving. I am not looking after myself. I am just simply getting by each day and just working. And I remember even at that point of having that realization, I still felt too bad to even take time off to grieve my best friend. I think I took a week off, and obviously it took me a lot longer outside of that, but I felt like I had to keep showing up because I was constantly worried that at any minute my business would fall apart. I'd been so lucky to build my business up. It had been amazing. I'd worked my butt off, but I was convinced that I'd built it from luck. I was convinced that it was going to go away at any minute and that I was going to run out of luck, basically. And it wasn't until about 15 months ago I hit this real brick wall. I had expanded my business in that time to have a team, an entire team working for me. What some people might think is the goal in their business. We had waiting lists for clients. Everything looked incredible. And again, I was still at this point of feeling so burnt out. I got to this point about 18 months ago where I said to my partner, I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore. I'm not sure I'm cut out for this. I think maybe I just need to get a normal job. And I started applying for teaching jobs, which is actually what I went to university to do. I started looking on LinkedIn, Indeed, signed up to all the notifications, thinking, I just need to get a normal job. I'm actually not made to be self-employed. And I just have to accept that. If I was made to be self-employed, honestly, it wouldn't feel this hard. And I would wake up every day and I would cry. And I know that probably sounds so dramatic, but I was so burnt out to the point even my body was fighting against me. And if you had sat me down before I'd got to that breaking point and told me, slow down, you're burnt out, you need to look after yourself, I would have thought you were talking absolute nonsense. I honestly would have thought, no, like all I've ever done my whole life is work. All I've ever done is put my head down. All I've ever done is do well at school. Like, all I've done is work. What do you mean I need to slow down? Don't be ridiculous. Hard work pays off. I would have struggled to listen to you before this point. And yet I got to this point where I genuinely had like no alternative. Like, I couldn't concentrate. My hormones were absolutely in the gutter to the point I ended up on HRT. My estrogen was so low. And obviously, this was like a multitude of reasons, but the level of stress my body was under was not helping. I was struggling to sleep. Would honestly just go and like have a nap in the daytime because I was struggling to sleep and then my mood was so low that it felt like the easiest option. And at that point, my partner honestly got to this point where he was like taking my laptop off me every single day because he was like, all you do is work. You have to stop this. You can't carry on like this. He would honestly force me to sit down and write like 5 things I'm grateful for every single day. And at that point, I genuinely was struggling to see them because I was just in such a negative headspace. And that's the point where I finally got to going, you know what? I've got to rebuild. And I did the wildest thing ever to some people, and I completely let go of my team and the clients with them. Completely started from the ground up and was like, you know what? I'm going to build a business that feels good to me again. Not what I've been told to do, not what the business mentors have told me to do. Let me build this business my way, in a way that I can sustain, in a way that I'm going to love, in a way that lets me switch off. My goodness, I do not want to work 7 days a week and open my laptop at 5 a.m. That is not okay. So I completely restructured how I worked. And this was the point I was really forced to go, you know what? I have to look internal. And up until that point, I had really always thought it was a little bit fluffy. I thought the journaling was a waste of time. I always imagined it like a Dear Diary Lizzie McGuire situation. I honestly thought like it was fluffy and that people going down this route just didn't know how to work hard. Oh, honestly, I just thought people needed to get on with things and work harder and everything would fix itself. And at this point, I had no option but to realize I had to explore something different. And I really lent in on my mindset journey from going down the route of working with NLP coaches, mindset coaches, taking more time off, setting work boundaries again, setting boundaries with clients. And do you know what happened as a result of me working less, setting these boundaries, and just really going inwards on me? Everything got so much better. It got so much easier to show up as my clients needed me, to show up with energy and excitement and give them the very best version of me that they deserve. I was able to be so much more present in my relationships. Whereas before we were getting in arguments or bickering because I just couldn't take that time off and I would want to cancel date nights because I was just so stressed. I could actually go and spend a day with my family that are in a different town to me and not feel bad for taking that time off, whilst my business still grew and I was able to hold it. And there was no level of a strategy or content plan that was going to fix this for me. And that was what made me go down the route of going, you know what? I wish someone told me this when I was starting my business, because this is life changing. How much easier my business feels, how much more naturally my dream clients are drawn to me. Everybody needs to know this. And so I went down the route of getting NLP qualified, doing my master's in coaching psychology, and completely pivoting to build a new business, creating the impact I want to have. Because we do not just work on the surface level. We do not just work on your strategy. We don't just work on your content. We work on the person behind the business, because success does not come from posting that you're taking on 5 new clients or from working at 5 a.m. in the morning and getting to the end of the day and still feeling like you've got the to-do list that just never ends. Success comes from what you can implement sustainably and when you actually believe in your ability to hold it. The reason I struggled so much is because my business was built from a fear of failure, built from the fear of it all falling apart at any minute, built from the belief that I couldn't really sustain it and I didn't deserve it. And so it was always going to be an unattainable business to sustain. It was always going to leave me burnt out. And this is where I see so many women go down that route of building a business that feels so much harder than it needs to be, because they are constantly operating in that scarcity mindset, that mindset of nobody wants to invest right now because money's really tight. Nobody will want to work with me because there are so many other service providers that can do what I do. Going, I couldn't possibly take that day off because what will my clients think about me? And as a result, we build this business that actually just ends up feeling more like a prison than something that we are genuinely proud of. And that is why the Built From Within podcast exists, because when you build yourself, when you build the internal frameworks that are needed, when you build the belief that you are capable, clients are literally waiting to work with you, that you deserve and can hold the success, that the work that you do is so important and so impactful, that is when your whole business changes. That is when you can switch off at the end of the day and know that clients are still coming in to work with you. And that is exactly what we do when we work together. We build the internal framework. We leave behind the beliefs that have been limiting you for so long. We rebuild your identity to realize exactly what you're capable of, and then we integrate it so that it just becomes second nature. And it's if you were always this person. Thank you so much for being here for the first episode. I cannot wait to see you in the next one. That's everything in today's episode of Built From Within. Thank you so much for being here today. It would mean the world if before you go, you give the podcast a follow, you subscribe. And if this episode resonated, and I really, really hope it did, please send it to another woman that needs to hear it. Because doing this work can honestly completely change your whole life, and we need to spread this message. You can find me on Instagram at itsbewallace, where I share more of this on a daily basis. And if you're ready to go deeper, DM me the word unlock, and let's talk about what working together on a closer proximity looks like. I will see you in the next episode of Built From Within.